The Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, one of the greatest venues in all of sports, and it had hosted a wide variety. But today, NASCAR's best are about to drive off into the great unknown. They will emerge from that subterranean tunnel to this, the quarter-mile racetrack that has been constructed over the last couple of months to host the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. The weather is perfect. Nice day to make horsepower, 59 degrees. Calm winds, bright sunshine, and it's coming over turn number 1, looking down the front straightaway. So welcome to Los Angeles. Mike Joy, Tony Stewart, Clint Boyer with you. And the very first cars to take to this track under green flag conditions. Smoke, you likened it to getting ready to swallow a box of razor blades. Why?
Well, you're going to see. I mean, these guys have the tightest, smallest track they've ever ran in the Cup Series for these guys. So, new surface. Looks like it's probably going to be slick to start with, but definitely it's going to be a challenge for sure.
Right off the bat, I'm already seeing guys try to figure out where to be on this racetrack. Tony, we have rumble strips down on the bottom. You can see in the paint. Some guys are already down trying to drive through those rumble strips, seeing if they can find enough grip down there. You can see it right there with Eric Almirola. It's going to be interesting to see how these guys navigate around this track. And only 8 minutes. Not much time here for practice.
8-minute practice session. The 36-car field divided into 3 groups for practice. Kyle Busch making pace on the inside of the racetrack.
And this is crazy because nobody has any notes on this racetrack whatsoever, except for the guys that have done this on iRacing. That's the only laps they have right now.
Now we have a lot of faces in new places, and we'll get to that. And oh, by the way, the whole race car is new for 2022.
Yeah. I'm impressed that they're able to run all the way, all fours down on those rumble strips already. For sure, you can see the fast boys around have already been down there on the bottom and digging.
So the rumble strips are little depressions in the asphalt that was made during the paving process. And already we've seen Kyle Busch with 4 wheels under the white line and all down on the paint looking for grip.
Now, obviously, they're down there by design to keep these guys from going down there. Everybody going into this anticipated, can we do that? How much grip can we find down there? And you can see them making early lap time. But as I look for this track to gain some lap time and get some rubber burnt into it, you'll see them moving up and find a better grip up there.
And I think right now it's just they're all exploring. They actually did something I've never seen the Cup Series do. They had a 30-minute track walk like you would see at a Supercross event. And the drivers were walking down there and you see them taking their feet and dragging their feet across the surface. And that's where these guys, like you see, you're already seeing guys with the left sides or even all 4 below that white line. They felt more grip in their shoes below the line than they did above it.
But actually, as the lap times keep picking up here, you're seeing them move up. And I think that's because of the drive off the corner. They can get down there and find some speed getting into the corner, but it makes them get loose and can't, spin the tires up off. You see Kyle Busch there, and he's run some good laps. That's the experience, in my opinion, don't you think?
Yeah, and literally, though, it's going to be trial and error because what you think you're going to be doing isn't necessarily what's going to work. So you would sit there and think with those dimples in the racetrack that you wouldn't want to be on top of that because it's not a constant surface. But since the stuff that you're on top of does have grip, I think that's what's going to lead these guys to have that opportunity to go down there.
Christopher Bell, he and teammate Kyle Busch and Ty Dillon have pace here in the first couple minutes of practice. And a nice line.
And that's the thing, the way this track is shaped, it's not a traditional oval. It kind of looks like an Australian rules football is what it's shaped like. So the entries are kind of open, the exits are kind of open and open up outwards. So it gives these guys an opportunity to move around and can kind of have an arcing, sweeping entry.
Bubba Wallace leading a pack that includes Kurt Busch in his new ride, looking for a way to the inside. And instead, he gives way to A.J. Allmendinger. Brad Keselowski.
I saw Brad slide up right here as we're watching him. He actually pitted, folks, but he slid up big time in 1 and 2. Interesting to see what happened.
Now, where he is parked is where the cars will stage to leave the track at the end of this 8-minute session. Looks like he and Eric Almirola. Almirola just backed out of the throttle, looking for some clean racetrack ahead of him, and then picks it up again. Denny Hamlin slow in the back straightaway. Is he looking for a gap? Yes. And finds one.
I'll tell you, the car that I'm really impressed with is Eric Jones. That car seems to be rolling well, making good grip for him. He's not only passed cars, he's on top of the board too, or running second there for a lap time. Good average speeds.
And I truly believe the longer we see this, there hasn't been race cars on this, so the surface is fresh. There's a lot of oil on top of it. I feel like the longer and more laps that are put on this track, it's just going to continue to get faster and faster.
So what Denny Hamlin wanted to do was wait and follow Christopher Bell and Kyle Busch and see how and where they are running.
You can see that 21 spinning the tires up off there, but this is that protection line that we've been talking about. 21 went in low, enabled Eric Jones to hang it outside, arc that corner, and get a better drive off the corner. As soon as the 21 slid up the middle, he was there for the taking.
That's kind of fun to see the 43 and the 21 going at it.
Yeah, old school, right?
Takes me back.
You can see him go across those rumble strips, and when he got on the throttle, it really stepped out. I expected to see that.
So since they came on track about 6 minutes ago, lap times have come down by a full second. No surprise.
I think that's to be expected. I mean, it's like I said, it's a fresh racetrack, and the more laps they run, the better this is going to get. The more it's going to break the sealer off the top of the new asphalt there and start building some grip.
Now, most everyone has run 25 laps. That's the length of a heat race tomorrow, is 25 laps to determine your qualifying position.
Now, Mike, those are the cars the guys that are happy with their automobiles. These other guys, you can see down there, Austin Cindric, Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, they're down in the pit area. There needs some adjustments. They'll be back for this second practice.
And the hard part about a traditional track is they can't just pull out and go back to the pit area and get ready to come back out. This is done in groups.
Right. You have the 8 minutes to use as you please. And then there are 2 more groups waiting. Right down to the inside. Look at those rumble strips there as they roll over them and look for grip mid-corner. So 6 cars have gone to the infield to wait the end of the session. That leaves half a dozen still on track and still searching for speed. As Christopher Bell goes to the top of the chart. He and Kurt Busch, Ty Dillon, and Kyle Busch have each run 30 laps.
And one would ask, why do those guys already pull off the racetrack? You got to save some tire. We only have 5 sets of tires per team all weekend long. Use them however you want. So these guys are trying to save their tires, make those adjustments, and make it accordingly and use it to the second practice. That's what's going on here.
And they're going to run long enough just to figure out what their car's doing. I mean, there's no need, if it's not driving the way you want, you want to have the time and take the time to move around and try to see if you can help make your car drive better. But at the same time, you're not just, once you figure out what it's doing, you're not going to fix it by just continuing to stay on the racetrack. So to your point, you do want to save those tires and not use the equipment.
Well, 14 seconds is going to be a pretty good bogey. Right now, we only have 2, actually 1 driver. One driver under that mark, and that's Christopher Bell. Kyle Busch is right at it at a 14:06. And that will end session 1 for group 1 of 3 groups.
The Gibbs boys looking stout.
What a beautiful facility and what an event we're looking forward to. Practice this morning on FS2, time trials later today on FS1. Welcome back to the Los Angeles Coliseum. Practice for the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum is underway. The first group complete, second group coming up to speed. Let's check with our crew chief, Larry McReynolds.
Well, Mike, I've been doing this a long time, and this may be the first time that I've sat in the grandstands with all the crew chiefs and watched practice. You've got them scattered all the way around this Los Angeles Coliseum. You're looking at the Stewart-Haas Racing Brain Trust. You got Johnny Klossmeyer over there, Chase Briscoe, crew chief, Mike Chippett, Bo Custer, Greg Cipodelli, and learned. Jamie, it's exactly what Eric Almirola needs to learn to get around this quarter-mile racetrack.
So exciting to see what's happening on the track. I'm back in the garage right now. Very unconventional setup. We are in a parking lot. This is old school racing. The haulers are parked here. They pull the cars out and work on them right here. Very tight quarters back here. As you see, the JGR drivers just pulled in off the racetrack. Listening to the radios, guys, they seem pretty optimistic. And I even heard that there's kind of feelings up Martinsville. So they're getting comfortable out there. Kyle Busch told me he likes how long those straightaways are, that looking at the pictures before he got here, he thought they were going to be really short. So these guys enjoying themselves so far.
Thanks, Jamie. Here is Group 2. Now, the practice groups were seeded by point standings from 2021, car owner point standings. So, for example, you will see our champion Kyle Larson in group number 3. And on down. Here are the cars in group number 2. Again, a lot of faces in new places. We'll get to that. We've got all weekend. Right now, it's trying to figure out this very tight quarter mile.
And just like the first group, that's exactly what they're doing. Letting the temperature come up in the tires, get some air built up in them. And as you do that, more and more grip, get more comfortable, get into the corner under braking, let that thing roll, figure out your forward bite. Lap times start showing up, don't they, Tony?
And we have such an amazing view from the booth that we're standing in. We're watching on the monitors, obviously, but it's fun to watch the first half dozen laps. And you can tell whose tires start coming in and whose cars feel decent right out of the box, because it is a yard sale difference from the guys that are still tiptoeing, still trying to feel it out, trying to figure out what their cars are doing, just like we saw in Group 1 as well.
Now, yesterday there were a couple of exhibition laps turned for a TV promo, but other than that, nobody has ever turned a wheel on this brand new asphalt surface. So we're working in the track, we're working in getting used to these brand new cars, and a lot of new driver, crew chief, team relationships as well. A lot to process here.
And we just saw the in-car camera with Joey Logano and seeing the ratio of the steering racks.
Yeah.
His hands were at 9 and 3, and then when he went in the corner, his right hand was clear over to 11 o'clock to make the corner. So that's, you think about when these cars get loose, how far they got to move around. It's gonna be a big deal for these guys to catch them.
You said steering rack. Never heard that before in NASCAR. Oh, getting close, getting closer, getting together.
Ford got a little loose off the corner there. Look at that air pressure in the left rear. Boy, they've got some air out of the left sides in there, looking for grip.
And if you think that's the last time we're going to see something like that this weekend, that's not even the 2 shrimp they give you at the Japanese buffet for an appetizer. That's going to be the beginning of a long list of contact we're going to see this weekend.
Already, I'm starting to put together. These guys have their hands full getting into the corner and really hard to put the throttle down up off. If they can get it rotating, get turned, get both tires really down and loaded on the track, they can get the forward bite. Some of those guys will still have wheel put in it on the exit. It unloads the left rear tire and gets loose.
And I think it's the traditional thing that you and I have always fought driving the race cars as well. You fight entry and exit are normally the same, but the center you normally fight really tight. So it's loose entry, loose exit, tight center. It'll be interesting with these new cars, independent rear suspension, taller wheels, shorter sidewalls, to see what the characteristics of these cars versus the old ones.
Tell you who's fastest in this group, Daniel Suarez.
Yes, he is. I was just watching him on Austin Dillon's bumper right there, kind of waiting for him to get around. Couldn't see who was in front of him. Cole Custard is getting it sorted out. But again, watching those guys, Austin Dillon's diving bomb in those rough strips. Daniel Suarez is not. He's staying up on the racetrack and getting good drive up off the corners.
And you watch his entry, he's able to stay way out on the entry to where he's making the center of the corner a bigger radius. So that, and he's able to turn underneath Austin right there. He's
the way
fast.
He goes. Yeah, he is.
Do you know how many of these drivers had even been born the last time NASCAR raced on a track this small?
None of them.
Exactly.
None of them.
I know who's the oldest. Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, he was born 4 years after the last quarter-mile cup race.
And you see that trade-off. I see the cars that are loose in, protecting, running straighter down in the corner, then they get tighter in the middle, and they're loose up off. That is a deadly combination as a race car driver when you have tight racing corners like this track has. You do not want to be loose in, loose off, and tight in the middle. Hard to fix.
But I think the great thing is it's going to make for great racing. If a guy protects, you're gonna have the option to get around and square up the corner.
There's a lockup you can see, and these things, Larry Mack has told us leading into this weekend, a lot more brake on these new cars that these guys have. This next gen car, a lot bigger brake, 18-inch wheel, more room for rotors. That's what you're going to see a lot of right there, lockup.
And you and I got a chance to do the tire test at Bowman Gray. The cars seem to have a higher center of gravity to where these straightaways are not straight, so they're constantly turning even down the straightaways. So the car's kind of loaded to the right side. It picks the left front up. So I think you're going to see a lot of lockup when these guys are really hustling, trying to get underneath each other in the corner.
It's interesting the trade-off of using these rumble strips. You can see like LaJoie right there diving to the bottom and hitting those rumble strips. He really gains in the middle, but he can't get off the corner quite as good, and the Ford drives right back to his bumper on exit.
And they're chasing Alex Bowman. Little over a minute left in this Group 2. And a little more casual. The 4 and the 7, there must be a magnetic attraction there.
They've been around each other the entire session. Oh, they just ran into each other again.
That's what this track's going to breed, folks, and that's why I'm here. Get your popcorn ready because it's going to be entertaining.
It's not the only contact sport they play in this Coliseum, but it's the one we've got this weekend. Whoa.
And I don't even think this is going to be a scenario where every time you see contact, it's intentional. It's just such a small racetrack that somebody bobbles for a split second, and then, well, he was trying to get out of the way there, I think. But I think you're just going to see a lot of contact that's unintentional, that's just due to the size of the racetrack.
But I also see right there with those two, like I alluded to a little bit earlier, I see two cars that are handled differently. Kevin's not really turning the best in the middle of the corner. LaJoie was, but he couldn't get off the corner. No forward drive. Kevin exactly opposite.
Daniel Suarez is now second overall to Christopher Bell. Talked to Daniel out of Barrett-Jackson last week. He is excited about this. It's a new opportunity, not just for him, but for everybody.
He'll be even more excited now. He's fast.
All right, Group 2, Group 3 on the way for their first practice session. Tony Stewart joins us in the booth for this weekend and for the Daytona 500. After moving over from the IRL, winning 3 Cup championships as a driver and then one as a co-owner, and being voted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So great to have you with us. All I want to know is, did you dress Clint this morning?
Well, he's getting ready to balance my checkbook when we get done up here today. So I don't know who dressed him.
The wardrobe guys, do not make me look smart.
Don't worry, they didn't do that.
Advertisement.
They still didn't make you look smart. They just are trying to show people what a smart person would look like.
Guys, what a great equalizer this new car and this new track is. Daniel Suarez second. Todd Gilliland, a rookie, third fastest so far. Cody Ware, sixth fastest.
Yes.
Wow. Right,
and I think you're going to see that with this new car. Everybody trying to figure it out. That's what was the plan, the vision for this new car. Equal the playing field, and I think you're seeing that with Cody Ware up there at the top.
You said on the way
everybody started from
upstairs
scratch.
that you were kind of glad you're not in a race car today. Why?
Because too many unknown variables. We like variables that we kind of somewhat know what to expect. This is all unknown variables. New racetrack that's never been run. New race cars that guys haven't driven. New teams that guys are going to. A lot of new variables for everybody.
Starting to see a little contact out there already.
Yeah, a little bit.
Kevin Harvick and LaJoie. I like that.
All right, let's check with Regan Smith.
Well, guys, it's amazing to see down here inside the racetrack. The best view, first off, that I think you could ever have in a racetrack. We can see all the way around. But to see the evolution of the cars on the track, where the braking zones are, what the drivers are doing to try and pick up that speed. Furthermore, you look at the cars when they pull in here. A number of guys been coming into the pits early for different reasons. The 99 car, Daniel Suarez, we saw him come down here with fire on the brakes already. Not too concerning for the team. They saw it. They didn't do anything to try and put it out. It eventually went out as he drove away. But that's how hard these guys are driving right now. It has been a blast to see what's taking place. A lot of loose chatter on the radios and a lot more chatter than we typically get at a racetrack on the radios.
Well, this is fun to watch, trying to see who can get grip up off the corner and how dare you send it into the corner.
You're going to find out here. You got a lot of young, aggressive race car drivers on this one. I'm looking at Stenhouse. You know he's going to get that thing off in the corner. Tyler Reddick, another very aggressive guy, and then last year's champion Kyle Larson.
Ryan Preece on the button right away in the 15. Just passed a couple cars. He's found a way. He's found a way around.
And going back to Daniel's fire that he had in the right front there, and it wasn't big, obviously. It wasn't too concerning, obviously, or they would have been on top of it. But I think what you're going to see is a lot of these guys, because of the new cars, because of how tight the corners are, they're scared of getting loose in, so they're dialing a bunch of front brake into the car just to be conservative. They'd much rather the front tires lose grip than the back tires lose grip on entry.
You hear how far down on RPM they get when they get back in the corners. Almost some gear lag right there. You can hear it trying to find that grip up off the corner. Easy on that gas pedal. Track feels slick.
Now I have to ask, you're not even thinking about shifting here, are you?
I don't think you have time to worry about shifting. I think if you're taking one hand off the wheel and somebody touches you, you're going to make your problem even worse.
However, new gearbox that we're using this year, new transaxle 5-speed transmission, and probably only in second gear. That's something that's different than anything that I've ever seen since I've been in the sport.
And not the traditional H pattern, sequential gearboxes this year, which we saw guys in testing. Even Eric Amarola driving one of our cars had a scenario where he went to go from second to third gear, and when he went forward with it, it went back to first instead of third, over rev, had
You
to
don't want
change
to do
engines.
that.
No.
That is a no-go.
No, not at all.
Very unhappy with Valtrain.
Not near as unhappy as the engine builders that build those and have to fix it after we tear them up.
You know, the old standard H pattern that we've always used, pretty self-explanatory. That thing, it would be easy to do that. You get behind on your gears, you make a huge mistake.
I didn't know you could money shift one of those, but yes, I guess you can.
Yeah, not the right direction, not money making, money spending shifts.
Right.
Some more wheel lockup right there. 12 car, Ryan Blaney.
Tell you, this third group is a lot more aggressive to the track than the first two were.
That kind of tells me two things. They've watched those guys a little bit more confidence there, but I think the track's cleaning up. See another wheel lock up with the 12 car Ryan and Blaney. You got to be careful doing that. You flat spot that tire, and that'll ruin that set of tires.
Keith Stenhouse to the inside of Michael McDowell. Makes a pass.
When you lock a wheel up like that, there's a couple of things that happen. You can feel a vibration. If you can feel it 9 times out of 10, you went too far and you need to pit because that thing's going to blow out on you. But slowly but surely, kind of tiptoe into the next corner. In the next corner, you saw him give up and let Chase Elliott go. You'll gain some confidence back in the grip of that thing, and away you'll go. Or it'll blow out and ruin your day.
Ryan Preece fastest in this session.
And I think there's a logical reason for that. Ryan Preece is an excellent modified racer from the Northeast, used to running places like Wall Stadium, Stafford, small tracks, tight corners, knows how to figure out how to get the car to square the corner up where he can get on the gas.
Great point right there. Right at home with that race car. Very aggressive, bull ring, just like he grew up doing.
Something to your point of blocking up the left fronts, the only saving grace I think that will help these guys when they do that, because it's such a small track and because the mile an hour is slow, they're not sliding it as far and they're not sliding it as fast. So I don't think the damage to the tire is as bad as we would see it at a road course, for example, or Martinsville, where you're running faster on the entry and have a longer braking zone.
Watching Kyle Larson, who is now our defending NASCAR Cup champion. The last race of the season, Phoenix, and that was the money stopper right there. That gave Kyle Larson the chance to drive away and secure his first Cup Series championship. Right now, Larson is up to 4th on the board. Chase Elliott now fastest in this session, 2nd overall.
Looks like he's picking up with that whole organization right where they left off. Going to the top of the board, it's going to be hard to handle.
So we mentioned the 14-second mark. 8 drivers, the top 8 drivers down through Stenhouse at 14 seconds or better. You're going to need to run that fast if you're going to win one of these qualifying heats tomorrow and set yourself up to win the Busch Light Clash.
And I'm really excited. After watching these first 3 groups, I see something in watching the lines that these guys are driving. The guys that have confidence in their car, they're able to really stay out late, open their entry up, square the exit up. There's drivers that haven't got that security or don't have that confidence yet, that are having to turn in early, get down on those strips, but they really struggle center exit of the corner. And I think guys that even in the race, when they're racing each other, if they're trying to protect and guard that bottom on entry, they can't guard the exit that way as well. If you give up on the entry, you're going to give up on the exit.
So everyone is learning, and the track surface is improving. Remember, nobody's ever raced on this or driven this at race speed until this morning. 7 of the 10 fastest speeds are from this 3rd group.
Pretty stout 3rd group, too. I'm going to say that. Last year's champion, Chase Elliott, year prior's champion, got some good cars in this group. But I love the parity that I'm seeing in this all the practice sessions, really. Some guys that I didn't necessarily expect. Ryan Preece, 5th on the board. Cody Ware in that car. That's good effort out of those teams, and I'm glad to see it.
And I really believe we'll have a much better read on the entire field once we see the second round, the entire second round go. The first group, absolutely green racetrack. We can actually see the color already starting to change in the track just a little bit. It's starting to dull up a little, so it's getting that shine off of it. The first group probably had the worst racetrack. Second group, it was a better track. The third group, much, much better. So I think the second round coming up, we're going to definitely have a better idea of what this field really stacks up and looks like.
Red and black flag is out, so everyone has had one try at the racetrack. We'll recap after this. The Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum has twice played host to the Olympics, and twice was the home of the LA Rams. Hosted my dad's favorite World Series. He was a big Nellie Fox, Minnie Minoso fan of the White Sox. Twice the Super Bowl has been played right here, and the longtime home of the Raiders as well. Midget racing in the 1940s was very big here at the LA Coliseum. 30 events staged over that period. And today and tomorrow, NASCAR. The first ever asphalt track inside the LA Coliseum. They've had Supercross here and Mickey Thompson Stadium trucks, but nothing like this.
Second round of practice for these guys right here. I had a chance to dissect with the boys, make some adjustments here. I think you're going to see lap times pick up.
Let's check with Larry Mack.
Chief Paul Wolf. Paul, you got 8 minutes of practice with Joe Logano, your driver. What were the initial thoughts? What are you having to work on?
Well, obviously we're trying to take it all in here in a quick 8-minute session. For us, our biggest struggle was just needing rear grip, being able to carry the speed he wants into the corner. So the track's changing a lot. It's going to continue to change through all these sessions. So we really have no notebook, obviously, with this new next-gen car and obviously a track like this. So a lot happening. We got to be on our toes here and learn quick.
Mike, this is not a good thing. The more I'm hanging out down here, I want to grab one of these headsets and go to work on one of these cars.
Thanks, Larry. All right, we've updated our scoring pylons so that the cars that are currently on track are shown with a green background. Now, for work being done, let's go to the garage and Jamie Little.
Yes, there's a lot of work going on. Remember, Mike, this is the first time these teams are really making these adjustments after being on the racetrack with other cars. So they're all trying to wrap their arms around how to get it done. Now, you guys have talked about Christopher Bell in the 20. He was the fastest in that first group. I just talked to his crew chief, Adam Stevens, and he said, you know, typical. We were loose into the corner, and we were tight off the corner. So they made some adjustments to help that car. But Adam smiled. They're having fun, and their car is fast.
That it is, third quickest overall.
We've been watching Denny Hamlin. He's having a lot of trouble getting into the corner, a lot of wheel lock up on the left front, both ends of the racetrack for about a lap and a half.
And once it starts, you really can't, it's not like you can just let off the brake and let it catch up and then get back on the brakes. You're going to run out of real estate, so you essentially have to ride it out in the corner that way. just try to make an
modulation,
adjustment.
that's about all you can do is try to modulate it a little bit. But to your point, you got to stop. You got to use it, so you can't get off of it, but that's the only fix. Not a very good situation to be in.
Kyle Busch goes to the top of the chart with a lap of 13:66.
It's getting it pretty good, boys. You can see he got in the back of it, but also what I heard right there was a little bit of wheel lockup. You could hear the rear tires starting to lock up right there. That's something you're going to have to be careful of. You get too much of that wheel hop, that thing will come around on you in a heartbeat.
And I don't think it's going to be a scenario. We saw with the 99 earlier that we had some fire under the brakes. I really don't think this is going to be a big deal brake-wise. I don't think brakes are going to be an issue like we would see at Martinsville, the road courses, and most of the short tracks. You're on them such a short amount of time. I just don't think it's going to be an issue, but I do think what's going to be key is getting the balance correct, because
That's exactly what
you
I was
can't
gonna
slide
say.
the left front, and you darn sure don't want to chatter those rears on entry.
From what I've seen so far in practice, these long straightaways, very tight corners, who can get in the corner the hardest and more importantly get off the corner. Those two scenarios are very, very important. But I love how they're seeing, or we're seeing these guys use these rumble strips, stay off of them, arc it into the corner. Definitely the ones that have a good grip in their car and stability getting into the corner can get off of it way better.
And if you think back to the first run, the first round of practice with this first group, they all immediately went down to those rumble strips. Now we're seeing barely the left side's over or they're above it, but not near as dominant below the white line as they were the first
Danny
round.
better be careful here. I'm telling you, that left front is nothing but smoke this whole practice session. He flat spots that wheel and blows it out. It'll get down on the front end of the splitter, and he'll be in trouble. You can see how much he gets ate up into the corner. Not happy with the brakes on the 11 car.
And the hard thing is the straightaways aren't really long enough to take a lot of time to sit there and get to the balance knob to make that adjustment.
But and I will say this, not enough time probably to change your camber shims or something like that right now to help him fix that in between those two practice sessions. So you kind of got what you got right here. I bet you they'll make some camber adjustments there and make that better for the race, obviously.
That's Ty Dillon chasing the 11 of Denny Hamlin.
And like you see on entry right there, I mean, he eats Denny up on entry.
Christopher Bell just consistently fast. 13:67, 13:75, 13:93. Stringing some good laps together here.
See more wheel smoke right there. These guys got their hands full. You can see him really having trouble getting into the corner. The car's kind of light on its feet, not wanting to stop very good, and definitely up off the corner pedaling the race car. I like that. You're going to have to drive these things if you want to win this race.
You know, looking over the bio sheets of these drivers, there are some here. They haven't been on a track this small since they were in little Bandolero or Legend cars.
Or ever.
Or ever.
But I do think what's encouraging is we're looking at the pylon. 6 out of the top 10 in this group. These guys weren't at the top of the board at the end of the first round. Now the times are picking up. They're getting another shot at it.
All right, so you leave the garage area, make a right turn at the Honda dealership, come along past the swimming pavilion, and then come down the ramp and into the racetrack.
Sorry about your traffic jam here this weekend, folks. You're kind of used to it out here anyway, but we needed that street to get our hot rods on the racetrack.
Yep.
I don't think it changed the traffic flow enough to know it's terrible out here anyway.
That's right. Where isn't there traffic?
Jeez.
Come through the tunnel and then out into the Coliseum. 1 minute to go in session 2 for Group 1.
I'm going to tell you, these tires are tough because old Denny's still out there and he's still smoking the left front.
And literally with time still on the clock, you got 2 cars that are still at speed out there out of the first set still.
Kyle Busch he's ready for him. He's been out there, ran the most laps, still on the racetrack, and is on top of the board. Look out, competition.
13:66 for Kyle Busch, 1/100th of a second faster than teammate Christopher Bell's best lap. That's Denny Hamlin on the right, pulling into the infield service area. as Kyle Busch runs out the session with Ty Dillon. Very tight to get into the infield here. It's a very, very sharp turn.
Like Denny got into the wall a little bit there.
And we'll await Group 2 with Kyle Busch fastest in practice. First time we've ever had the the Clash at the Coliseum anywhere but Daytona. So we have all new rules and a professional to take you through it.
Here's a look at the format for the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. Cars will do single car qualifying to set lineups for the heat races. 4 25-lap heats, and the top 4 finishers advance on. Those who don't advance on go to the last chance qualifying races. 2 50-lap LCQs, and the top 3 from each of those will advance on to the Clash. Finally, the highest finishing driver from the 2021 season, who isn't yet locked in, will get a spot. In total, 23 drivers will be in the 150-lap main event, but only one will make history at the LA Coliseum.
So here's how it lays out with practice continuing here, then race day. 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. The heat races at 3 p.m. on Fox. Race day at 5 p.m. and the Clash at 6 p.m. all Eastern times. So you're going to have a full day of NASCAR tomorrow and all on Fox. Practice and time trials today. Time trials will be on FS1 later today. Regan?
Well, Mike, when we went to break, you guys showed the 11 car of Denny Hamlin with a right side stripe on that race car. I noticed 2 other cars from that session, the 23 of Bubba Wallace, the 10 car of Eric Almirola, also had the right side stripe on it. And as I look at the wall standing here from the infield, this wall is starting to get darkened up in the middle of the straightaways, not the corners, not anything like we traditionally see at maybe a Darlington racetrack where you run the outside. I had a little bit of curiosity coming here this weekend how that wall being curved down the straightaways would affect these race cars, and clearly it's affecting them quite a bit right now.
A little cosmetic damage there.
Just a little bit, but hey, the product of this new awesome composite body that we have, no harm, no foul right there. Last year, that had probably been a flat tire.
Now about this format, this is a short track weekly race format, and I love it because right now the only driver who knows for sure that he's going to be in the Clash is last year's champion, Kyle Larson. Wow. Jamie?
And Kyle Busch just brought it in. He's got an interim crew chief this weekend, Seth Chavka, watching over. I just talked to him and he said Kyle says he's just a little loose off, that he feels very much like the old car. So he's in his game. He's happy with the car. They made a couple of changes. They moved some noseway and made a camber change for that last session. And he's talking, Kyle Busch in this seat right now, talking with his hands, trying to describe exactly what the car's doing. And you see he has a tablet in front of him. He's looking at the overall speeds, that timing and scoring, seeing what others are doing. But right now, this JGR camp is pretty strong.
And he's liking what he sees on that board. Best 10 laps, best 15, best 20. See if anybody can match the occasion here in these last few practices here.
So his crew chief, Ben Bayshore, is serving out a 1-race suspension for lug nut issues back at Phoenix, the last race of the season. And we'll be back for Daytona.
Thank God we have that gone and behind us. We only have one to worry about now. No
That's
more
right.
lug nut
No
police.
more loose lug nut or missing lug nut penalties.
Nothing worse than having to pull over at the end of the race and the lug nut police get you.
And there's a look at it, the new center lock wheel and single lug nut. When you put the gun to that, it removes the nut which stays in the socket.
And you can see that keeper on the top of it, spring loaded. As that nut goes over there, it has to pass that keeper. That thing pops back up, won't let that nut come off. No loose wheel.
All part of what's new for 2022 in this brand new 7th generation NASCAR race car. Alex Bowman quickest in this session in the early laps. And he pulls aside, lets Martin Truex on by. And behind him, Todd Gilliland, the rookie who was quick in the opening round of practice.
It's
weird because we were watching the third session that we saw guys move up above that white line. The first session, second round, first session, same thing. This second set, a lot of the cars back underneath that line again. Some of them all four underneath again. But Daniel Suarez was super fast of the three groups. He's out in this session again. It'll be interesting to see where he lands in this.
You know, in traffic, he could get a scuff or two on the left side of his car because he is right down against the barrier on the inside.
That car's working well for him. He's stable getting into the corner, but I like the drive that car has up off the corner. He really pulls his competition, Cole Custer, there as he gets off the corner. Rear end squats down, both rear tires digging. Good forward drive.
A little telemetry on Joey Logano, who you're riding with.
Now that's that cat and mouse game. You saw him hold it out right there. Cole Custer moved down, run over the rumble strips. He held it out, tried to get a better run up off.
Remember that magnetic attraction we talked about in the first round?
Seems to be right back at it again, doesn't it?
They're back together again. Harvick and LaJoie.
Wonder if they rode to the track together or something, just can't get away from each other.
You could see Kevin hold it out right there. Again, I call it the cat and mouse game. He held it out, got a better run up off the corner. Now he's underneath of him, into the back bumper. Frustration coming in. I like it. Come on, Tony.
I'm sitting there going, man,
I want to be out
nose
there.
off this thing in practice already.
Oh, that's your car. Ownership side of things now.
Oh, for Pete's sakes.
I hate to say it, boys. Said it last year. Really want to be out there right now, Mike.
And I'll be honest, I was really skeptical when the concept of this race and when I saw photos of the track being paved, I thought, man, I don't know about this. And I'm with you, Clint. The more laps we're watching, the more it's like, man, this would be super fun, it looks like.
Well, this just takes you right back to your roots.
Exactly.
All right, Joey Logano made a little smash and grab there coming off turn number 4.
A little bit of a dive bomb shooting down there over the rumble strips. Is that what we're going to call that, Tony? Have you established what we're going to call that down there? I'm going for the rumble strips until you come up with something better.
I think to me, they look like dimples because they're pushed down in the track. When I think of a rumble strip, I think of something that goes up and above the surface.
Well, I live off a 40 highway, and I think of them every time I hear a semi on the rumble strips.
Whoa, that's up close and personal.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, might as well find out what these bumpers will take now.
Yeah. Caught off guard a little bit of who has found the success, the speed, the grip in their cars, and ones that haven't. Some have been some surprises for sure. Kevin cannot get around this guy.
But I like the way he's trying different entry, different lines, trying to figure what will get him fast enough to pass that car. He feels he's faster, but you got to find a way by.
Yeah, and you know, the first round we saw everybody be really patient, guys. We were lifting, letting each other go so they could get clear racetrack just to learn the track. I like what Kevin's doing now as well, because at some point you're going to have to figure out how you're going to pass this guy. And to do that, you got to sit there and be there, watch what they're doing. You got to, if he goes low, you go high, and you got to figure out how to get a run on a guy.
And you bring up a really good point right there. Just because you can make lap time on this racetrack, if you can't maneuver on it, if you can't hold it out, don't have the stability getting into the corner, dime in the corner, do the things you have to do to make a pass on somebody, you're going to have a long day on Sunday.
Now watch the corner entry here. Right in the center of the car is where that white line goes, going into the corner. Left side tires down on the rumble strips, right side's out in the asphalt. Right now, that looks like the quick way around.
I think it is the first half of the corner, but Clint kind of noticed in the first set, as soon as the guys go to leave the corner and want that left rear drive, now it's drive into a pocket, drive into a pocket. So it interrupts the left rear drive to where it can't just get a nice solid pull up off the corner.
Well, the top 5 are separated by less than 2/100ths of a second. Daniel Suarez is fastest. Jamie.
And Daniel Suarez with the fastest time here of 65.8 miles per hour. They're telling him, search around. Let's try some different things here. We know we have the speed. The car feels good, so let's search around. They also told him, you can attack in the corners as long as you barely touch that paint, because that's when they get a little sideways and the rear end comes out from under him.
Awesome to see him fast out here on top of the board. I tell you what, Chase Briscoe in the 14 car, he's really found some speed in his car. Some of his teammates are struggling. They'll darn sure be asking what do they have for a setup.
Regan?
Well, guys, we wondered about how the communication between driver and crew chief would be because of all this noise. The 19 team of Martin Truex Jr. already struggling on the radio. Can't hear his crew chief, James Small, as they try to communicate about what that race car's been doing. Not very happy with it right now. Can't get the left rear tire to do exactly what he wants to with that car.
And I think that's drive talk that I was talking about. If you come off the corner and you have wheel in the car, it wants to unload that left rear tire. This is Martinsville talk for me all over again. You have to be able to come off with the wheels straight, keep both of those rear tires digging. If not, you're going to be slipping and sliding, can't put the throttle down.
And that doesn't mean, just so everybody fully understands that, I mean, you have to obviously have steering wheel input into it to finish the corner, but you can't have all the load in it and expect the car to drive off at the same time. You have to be able to take some of that pressure off.
Flags are out to end this second practice session for the NASCAR Cup Series at the Coliseum. Auto racing has a rich history in Southern California. They called it Los Angeles Speedway. Nobody knew where Beverly Hills was when they built this giant board track where now stands the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. Gilmore Stadium, they ran midgets. That's where the Grove is today. Carroll Speedway at Artesia Boulevard in the 110. And then they raced midgets at the Coliseum from 1945 to 48. Ascot Speedway, the Agajanians' great speedway from 1957 to 1990. And even in the parking lot outside the Coliseum, the NASCAR Featherlight Southwest Tour raced for 3 years. Plus Riverside, Ontario, and Fontana, of course, the major speedways that we all know. Now, I'm not kidding. You drive through this neighborhood.
Think Google Maps gets you back to the pits?
I don't think so. Drive
Tony,
past the
this is your first
natatorium.
race together here. You notice Mike didn't read any of that right there. He lived every bit of one of those races, knew it all on the back of his mind somewhere.
Well,
you got to stay close to Mike. He makes everybody smarter.
I've been to Ascot.
Told you.
That's pretty fun. Then after the turn at the Honda dealership, you roll down here and into the tunnel and into the Coliseum. Group 3 out for their 8-minute run. There are the spotters up there in the expensive seats up top. Larry?
Mike, I have no idea how many steps it is to the top of this Coliseum, but I have been all the way up here outside the backstretch where the spotters are. I'm actually here with Brandon McReynolds, who's a spotter for Ross Chastain in that one car. Brandon, you've spotted at Bristol, you spotted at Martinsville, but how about a quarter-mile track with these Cup cars?
Yeah, it's definitely different. It reminds me a lot of that Daytona Battle on the Beach that we ran a few years ago in the ARCA K&N series, but there's going to be a lot of root and gouging. I saw Logano a little bit earlier giving Cole Custer the business down in turn 1 and 2, but it should be a lot of fun.
How much do you anticipate or have to anticipate what you would call a dive bomb?
Well, the hardest part is with the apron and the painted area. A lot of guys will just shoot down to the bottom, and so there's going to be a lot of that going on. But having 12 cars out there each session right now and then 23 or 24 tomorrow, it should be pretty interesting, but it should be fun. They're going to put on a really good show.
I do have one more question. Who's the #1 all-time Cup Series crew chief you know of?
I heard it was Jeff Hammond.
Oh, jeez.
Mike, I got work to do with this boy.
Oh, Larry.
And Brandon, led to a great point right there. If you can see these cars going around the track, there is a lane down there. Might not be the preferred line, but 8 tires turn better than 4, and a dive bomb will be coming. Be very hard for those spotters to anticipate that and notify them drivers that it's coming.
Well, while the McReynolds family continues their reunion, Ryan Preece is trying to do the dive bomb on Blaney and does.
Inside 31, then a big gap. Inside 31, a big
And
gap.
you can see he had to let the other one go too. That's going to be hard when we're in racing conditions, the heat race, last chance qualifiers in the feature. You can't just let that guy get you rooted up out of the way because there's going to be cars behind him too. You're not just going to lose one position, it'll be several.
Starting to see a lot more of these cars starting to lock up the left front brake. It's that first round, everybody just feeling everything out, feeling the racetrack out, feeling the race car out. Second round, now business is picking up. Guys are really starting to try to get to the limit, find out what these cars really can do. now starting to see a lot more lockup on a lot of these cars.
Well, you go back and you see your lap times. Where are you stacking up against competition? Oh boy, I'm a couple 2 or 3 tenths off. I've got to go out there and go faster. Where am I going to do it? The easy answer is getting in, but that can bite you as well.
Kyle Larson only 7th overall. Chase Elliott 5th. Justin Haley leads this group again.
And I think this track is still picking up speed. I mean, we've got 5 of the top 10 on the board now or in this last set.
See what Haley can do here. To the inside of Chris Buescher. Down in turn 1. Ryan Preece set to follow. And they both make the pass.
I think
you watch his hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Watch the crossover in his hands. I mean, literally the right hand clear over to the 11 o'clock position. That's a lot of wheel input.
Pretty tight corners. New rack and pinion steering on these cars. That adds a little bit of that as well. Used to be able to change your steering box pretty easy, make it quicker or slower. This is the same rack and pinion for everybody.
Well, nowhere else we go is going to have this tight a corner, not even Martinsville, right?
And it was funny, during the track walk this morning, I was talking to Kyle Busch, and Kyle was talking about actually running his road course steering wheel, which is a smaller diameter. Yeah. So when you turn the wheel 90 degrees, you're still turning, whether it's a bigger wheel or smaller wheel, when you turn the wheel 90 degrees, it's still 90 degrees. But the amount of space that it takes to do that with a smaller wheel, you can cover that a lot quicker.
The other thing you'll do is index your wheel a lot, I would think, for this track, because not only are the corners tight, the straightaways aren't straight, so you really don't have to ever worry about getting straight and correct in your wheel. Start with that baby all the way over against the seat, and if you get there, because that's how you set up your car too, Mike. A lot of guys fine-tune their race cars or where their hands are. If that hand's in a happy spot, you got a good balance, neutral balance on your car. If it's too far over, you need to free up.
William Byron jumps up into the top 4. Now Blaney up into the top 2 with Chase Elliott.
This is a stout set here. I mean, the top 5 all coming out of this group right now. They are picking up speed in a rapid rate.
And the line has moved up. Chase Elliott no longer dipping his lefts below the white line and onto the painted surface, except in turn 1.
Almost every car on the racetrack has moved up and has all 4 on the racing surface, not down on those rumble strips.
Kyle Larson's done, so is William Byron. They'll go to the infield and join Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, and Michael McDowell. And now a stack up at turn 2 as both Byron and Blaney tried to get off track at the same time, and that's a very tight place to go.
I was told from the drivers during this track walk this morning that they were told they had to stay on the racetrack for the entire 8 minutes, which seemed odd. We've never went anywhere, but that is a perfect example of why I think that was discussed. I don't think they're enforcing that at this point, but that was the reason, was to keep somebody from getting hit trying to get off the racetrack.
Well, if there was an area that's a little bit, questionable, I mean, you came in here, it's tight quarters, we all knew that, but getting off the racetrack is extremely tight there. It's just the nature of the beast with how small the racetrack is. You have to arc it quite a ways to make that corner. Might have some trouble there.
Hard to do when you're down on the apron.
Darn right, won't make the corner. A lot of brake dust there, boys. I think the brakes are the name of the game.
So let's show you when Ryan Blaney tried to pull off the racetrack, and he swung to the outside. Tyler Reddick right there. And Blaney stacking things up there. That's Stenhouse, the other yellow car. Boy, if you had to pit under green during one of the heats or the LCQ, you could cause a huge problem.
If you're pitting under green in one of those, you've already got.
You are a huge
You have a big problem already.
Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, pace practice for the Clash.
Certainly one of the more hyped clashes in the history of our sport.
If you're going to change it and go big, I feel like they went about as big as they could go.
first reaction was, how are we going to race inside that little stadium?
It's going to be one of the coolest events of all time in NASCAR. There is plenty of unknowns, which will make it highly entertaining.
There's going to be obviously some bumping and banging that goes on.
The atmosphere is going to be loud and crazy. The show is going to be great for the fans.
The venue is perfect for an exhibition race.
We're going to go to a party, and I think a race is going to break out.
Well, that's the kind of attitude coming in to the LA Coliseum, and now everybody's had a chance to take to the track twice and see what it's all about. This is the kind of NASCAR I grew up with. Quarter miles, half miles, Friday night, Saturday night, barnstorming, traveling, and fun racing. And it was certainly a contact sport. I'll look through the peristyle. Now let's check with Larry.
Well, Mike, I've talked to a crew chief, I've talked to a spotter, but now I want to talk to one of the more iconic owners in the Cup Series, Richard Childress, owner of that 3 and that 8. Richard, you've seen a lot of firsts in the history of NASCAR. What about bringing this new car to the LA Coliseum?
Well, it's really neat, Larry. What they've did to this venue here at the Coliseum is unbelievable. So much history here, and the 3 and 8's running real good, and temporal short track racing is going to be a lot of beating and banging.
You know, when I walk in the museum there at Richard Childress Racing, I see a lot of trophies that has the Clash on it from Daytona. What would it mean to win the first race here at the LA Coliseum?
That'd be great. It'd be unbelievable. I know we'll have a shot, so we're going to go for it.
Well, all I know is, Mike, the other day I said, what kind of Hall of Famer would I like to bring here to the LA Coliseum? I said the man they call the Intimidator.
Oh, yeah.
Dale Earnhardt, absolutely. You know, Richard Childress was part of a quarter-mile Legends race at Charlotte in May of 1991. Elmo Langley was the winner. Richard Childress was in that race.
He'd probably be really good today, too.
Well,
here.
Yes, here. Fellow whose his first activity in racing was selling peanuts and programs at Bowman Gray Stadium as a kid.
And Austin Cindric, Tony and I have been watching him under the break. He has his hands full. Very loose race car, tiptoeing around there, getting into the corner, the middle of the corner, up off the corner. Really doesn't matter. Not very happy with his hot red.
It's very inconsistent, unfortunately. I mean, you can see him lock up the left front. You see it get loose. You see him really loose up off. He doesn't have one thing he's fighting. He has a handful of things he's fighting right now.
Let's go to Justin Haley's garage stall and Jamie.
Well, you guys talked about Justin Haley and how good he looks out there. 4th on the board right now. I just checked in with his new crew chief for the year, Trent Owens. Remember, they are together full-time this year. Trent told me they are directionally correct in the changes they've made. So they're very optimistic about a little bit of a change and what kind of reaction and response they get in the car. Basically just giving them more security in the corner, trying to get it to cut a little bit better. And it's something else to note here with this Kaulig racing team. They have 2 cars here. AJ Allmendinger is in the 16. The team doesn't have a backup car, so they put the 2 primaries in one hauler, sharing that one hauler for the weekend.
Thanks, Jamie. Ooh, tense moment there for Denny Hamlin. Had to make a sharp cut to the inside. So take a look at this replay as Austin Cindric tries to get his car down in the track coming into the corner. And watch how quickly this thing drops right down on the nose under hard braking.
Just a lot of movement in the car is what I see. And honestly, anytime those cars move like that abruptly, it takes grip off of one wheel or another or all of them. I think the cars that you see really fast are smooth all the way through the corner, not a lot of movement.
The thing that we did see on initial hit on the brakes, the splitter went all the way down to the ground, but then you saw the nose come back up just a little bit, and then it stayed there. And all that is just the compression in the tire, the sidewalls of the tire under the initial hit. And then it springs back out of that and then holds the right height.
45 with him, then you got a gap. Gap here if you need it.
We're going to see this a lot this weekend.
30% more braking on these cars, and Larry McReynolds was telling me that. That's a lot more brake than what we had before. These guys are going to have to get used to that, and I don't think this is going to be the only track that we struggle with that, and you hear about these drivers, you know, having trouble.
I agree. It's 30% more brake, but it's not 30% more grip that goes with it.
Yeah, that's right.
So it makes it easier just to lock that tire up. You have more brake than what you have tire grip, which, I mean, that's just natural.
Well, you've had 7 decades of all the brake you could stuff under a 15-inch wheel, and now suddenly you have an 18-inch diameter wheel, opening up a lot more area for much bigger brakes.
Now, to be fair, we do have a little bit more tire. 18-inch wheel, but it's about 1.5 inches more tire too, so there is some compensation there, but obviously it's not enough. But I like that. I like these guys. You know, you want to be able to have to modulate that. That's what separates a driving style from another guy. Who can do that the best, especially on a short track like this? Brakes and getting into the corner, that's always been the name of the game.
You know, in the old days, we used to have a saying, apply the chrome horn. Well, those bumpers are not chromed anymore, but
still do
effective.
The same thing.
Yes, it is.
Same game, just different time. But I think that what you're seeing now and what we're seeing in practice is you're seeing these guys trying to see what it's going to take to move somebody a little bit. They're trying to figure out, how hard do I have to lean on somebody to just get them to move a little bit to give myself an opportunity to get underneath them.
One of the things that I don't see happening in these practice sessions is the tire really falling off a long ways. So you're going to have some speed, you know, in your car. A lot of times, you know, back in the old days of Martinsville, I learned it from you, Tony. I remember passing you at Martinsville, drove off a straightaway from you, I was like, ha, got him, boy. And within 20 or 30 laps, here he come. And another 30 laps, I was a lap down. Learned right then and there, better pace yourself, Jack. I need to be there on a long run. These tires don't seem to be falling off quite that bad.
Well, we saw Kyle Busch lock up that tire going into the corner, but that was the fastest lap he's run.
And that's just pushing,
you can do that once,
pushing it
right?
to the edge. I mean, it's like I said, these straightaways not being straight, the car is always loaded to the right side, which with a higher center of gravity, you can't just pile more sway bar in it and hold the car flat. What it ends up doing, instead of holding the car down, it actually picks the left side up a little bit.
He's fastest on the board, and yes, he's getting in the corner hard, but noticeably, just watching from up here in a bird's eye view, he rolls the center of the corner with way more momentum than anybody out there. Thing's got a lot of grip. Got a pretty good driver behind the wheel.
And it just looks, I'm not going to say easy to drive, but it looks very balanced to drive. He's not having to, there's nothing that looks sketchy in his lap. Even when he's locking the left front up, he's finding the boundaries. He's testing what he can get away with, what he can't. And it's just trial and error.
There's no stop and go. All momentum all the way through the corner. The thing's making a lot of grip.
And it's way easier if you can sit there and carry speed. You're not having to ask that car to do all the work leaving the corner. So momentum's a big deal.
13.48 seconds for Kyle Busch. That's the fastest lap of the day. We're at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, and look what they've done. In just a little over 3 months, after they graded the surface flat and then created a 2.5-degree banking for drainage, let it settle. They brought in plywood and a plastic liner to protect the earth, then gravel, then asphalt, 4 inches of asphalt. Safer barrier around the outside and a lot of Kench fencing borrowed from the Long Beach Grand Prix. And here we are, ready to race. Unbelievable.
A lot of people doubted it, including me, as a matter of fact, but this is real, and they've done such a phenomenal job of this place. I mean, it looks factory-like it's always been a racetrack. No way does this place look temporary.
Well, Mike Elton was just in here, and I did ask him, could we just do this every week? And he looked a little scared, but he's, like all of us, pretty excited about what's happening here this weekend.
I think the funny part about that was when Mike peeked his head in the corner, Boyer taps me on the shoulder, we turn around, and the first thing that went through my mind was, what did I say and what did I do to get in trouble already?
Not That's again.
Right. Still. All right, 8-minute session, and this is Group 2. Telemetry on the lower left on Kevin Harvick's car. Dana White from the UFC involved with that car just ahead. One of his brands.
Hourhead, I've had some of that. It's pretty darn good, boys.
It's Ross Chastain.
I'm seeing Kevin Harvick getting a lot smoother with his car right here. You can hear his inputs in the throttle and the brakes and things like that, running the line that he's running, getting a lot more smooth, a lot more comfortable with his 4-car.
It's getting better, but I think what's normally really hard to see on the 1.5 miles, it's very easy to see here to what we've been talking about of how smooth it is to see guys that are making time and carrying momentum, and how fluid the lap looks, where you watch Kevin and you listen to the throttle. If you just close your eyes and listen to the throttle, everything sounds good, but you watch it, you can tell there's still elements of the corner that he's fighting and not able to tie the entry and the exit and the whole lap together.
Looks broken up.
Yes. How about Joey Logano here?
Well, you see that swat with the hands there, that's catching the rear on the exit on the drive. And some of that could be the left side's down on those dimples, or rumple strips, or whatever we're going to call them.
Well, I think this is a good example right here of watching a car. He's unfortunately down on the sheet a little bit, not happy with his car, and you can see with the input in his wheel, like Tony just said, you can see almost wheel lock right there. Doesn't want to turn, and then it's loose up off. That's a hard thing to accomplish, you know, at a racetrack. When you're loose in, you loose off, and tight in the middle, it's time to go back to the drawing board.
Well, let's get some first-hand driver input on this place. Jamie?
Well, after months of speculation, all of this talk and buzz about the Clash being here, it's here. What's your first impression, Kyle Busch, who, by the way, is fastest today?
That's always nice when you're up on the top of the sheet, so we'll see if we can hang on to that, but still some good cars to go in the final group, and the track just keeps getting better. So just burning it in, that's essentially what it is right now. So real proud of these guys. I mean, obviously there's a lot of new and a lot of things that have kind of gone on over the off season, so it's nice to come out of here with a little bit of speed. Our preseason testings weren't quite as great as we wanted to be, but I felt like we just made a lot of changes to try to get a lot of learning done. So overall, all good. You know, real happy with the M&M's Camry. Hopefully, you know, that'll bode well for some qualifying action later on, and then getting into some heat races and racing.
Kyle, this is different from anything we've ever done. Downtown Los Angeles, the iconic LA Memorial Coliseum. What is this whole event like in your eyes?
I mean, it's cool. It's fun. It's new. It's different. It lends itself to possible opportunities down the road, but you know, we'll see how it races. Obviously, being out there with only 12 of us, not 24 of us, is quite a different feel. It's going to be different. But you know, I've run super late models at quarter-mile tracks in my career, and man, you can have some of the best guys, and you won't put a car a lap down for 60 laps because everybody's just bumper to bumper in a line, you know, but you can still put on some good racing. So different cars, but hopefully that application will still work.
All right, keep your eye on the 18 this weekend, Mike.
Kyle cut his teeth on the 3/8 mile Las Vegas bull ring.
One of the things that I took from there is burning the track in, burning that rubber, Goodyear rubber into the racetrack, only gains grip. Grip is lap time. The one thing that I have been watching is it's only down on the bottom of the racetrack. We get in those heat races, you're going to have an outside groove when they start these races. You're not going to want to be in that lane.
And we have seen guys, you know, through the process of getting pushed to that second lane. It's not terrible out there. It's not the preferred line yet, but I think as time goes on, I mean, just like they're burning the bottom end, they will start moving up, and they'll start finding ways to get this racetrack wider as they go.
As soon as they get pushed up there, they're immediately listening to that spotter. Find me a hole. I need down as soon as possible.
They aren't even going to have to say it. That spotter's going to know that that's what that driver's looking for immediately.
Cole Custer now quickest in this group.
I think they probably, as an organization, have made the best ground. The 14, you know, I said it earlier in that other practice, he found some speed. Be watching for those teammates to be listening to what they're doing, whether that's an air pressure change or, you know, camber changes you've heard, wedge changes that you can do with the rear of the car. No track bar. That's something you don't hear anymore because there isn't one on these race cars.
Cody Ware was quickest, and now Harvick jumps to second.
As soon as he turned that wheel, took the weight off the left front tire, that's the thing it's hard to do. You want to do the braking just like old school. It's one of the fundamental things you learn, especially on a road course or short track. Do the braking as much as you can on the straightaway. Well, guess what? These straightaways are turned. That's where the challenge comes in.
And that's what we noticed at Bowman Gray when we did the tire test for Goodyear, that when you started adding wheel input in the corner, you had to start taking brake pressure away to keep from locking that left front.
Chase Briscoe to the top of the chart.
Every session just keeps getting faster and faster and faster. That's a good thing.
And now we're under 13.5 seconds with Harvick and Briscoe. And that 14-second mark we talked about, well, that's way down out of the top 20. That's gone.
So 14 may have trouble here.
Regan, what's up with the 14?
Mike, you see the 14 stopped on the front straightaway right there. Just reported that the throttle cable in that race car broke. Basically, he's got no gas pedal because the cable that connects that to the engine is broken in half right now.
Well, he's fastest on the board, pushed through the floorboard. I said the 4 car did too. I'm wondering if anybody has taken tires. In front of the 4 down there, I see some used tires. See if we can't get an update on that if somebody put some tires on.
Cable?
That's not good, Mike.
We don't have mechanical linkage anymore, right?
No, this is all different. There's so many components on this new car that are different than what we've seen in the past. What Clint mentioned, no track bar anymore, independent rear suspension, single lug. A lot of these components are spec components. Where we had steering boxes before, now we have a steering rack. So a lot of these components are new, and we're going to find the sweet spot of what works, what things that we have to tweak on a little bit to make sure that we don't have situations like this where the cable's breaking.
Larry Mack.
I'm here with Rodney Childers, crew chief for Kevin Harvick. Rodney, I'd like to say we just finished happy hour, but we actually just finished final 8 minutes. That's it. All the practice. What did we learn?
For the 4 car, we learned a lot. You know, Kevin's really good at figuring things out as we go during practice, and we just kept making small adjustments every time we went out and got it better and better. And that was pretty good there. So we can still tune on it just a little bit more. The track's still going to get a little bit better, but hopefully we'll get this Busch Beer Ford on the pole tonight and have a good starting spot.
Did the track rubber up about what you guys anticipated? Because when we started this practice session, no race cars had ever been on it.
Yeah, and anytime you have new asphalt, it's real oily to begin with. So, you know, getting that oil out, the sun's out, obviously, which is kind of burning some of that off. But just getting some rubber down on the paint that's on the apron is a huge key for all of us. So the track's just going to get faster and faster.
Well, Mike, how cool would it be if the Busch Light car could break this winless streak in the Busch Light Clash?
Be pretty good for that team, for sure. You know, the last time NASCAR Cup cars raced on a track this small was 1971. And that happened at Bowman Gray Stadium down in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where they still run modifieds weekly at the place they call the Madhouse. One of the best at Bowman Gray was Glenwood. They raced the convertible division and the Cup division on that track, which surrounded a football field inside a stadium very much like this one.
And Mike, both you and I both live in Winston-Salem, been to that racetrack a lot, watched a lot of good racing over there, a lot of action. That place is the action track.
Well, like I told somebody, they don't put 10,000 people in there on Saturday night to watch somebody hold a pretty wheel and drive away from the field. Those people want contact. And boy, do they ever get it. We're at the LA Coliseum. Practice continues next. Something we often see at road courses, going to a new asphalt track for the first time, yesterday afternoon's track walk. Tony, you were out there with them. What'd you learn?
That it was way too early in the morning to be walking around a racetrack, which we've never done that at Cup tracks. It's not like as a Cup rookie you got to walk around Talladega and Daytona or Rockingham.
Wait a minute, I'm not going to walk Talladega anyway.
No, nor am I.
I don't think you're very...
Martinsville's about the extent of it for me.
For that.
Jamie McMurray would have run it. He ran a lap here yesterday on foot in 60 seconds.
If something was chasing me, I would have ran around here, but that was it. But it was really neat to see drivers trying to figure out and listen to different drivers saying the same things. Like they could look at the track and they were already figuring out intricacies about the racetrack before they ever made a lap on it.
And now that they have, I'd like to go down there and do that same track walk again with what they learned in practice right here, because I guarantee you some of them have learned some things, got some tricks up their sleeve, and I think that works into how their car's handling too, right? If you're having trouble in the middle of the corner, you're going to diamond it, you're going to do some things, drive it, navigate the corner a little differently than you would if that thing was really handling good.
So the groove has moved up, the times have come down, and the left front brake is locking up. What else have we learned?
I take it right back to the line they're running. You know, being able to utilize those rumble strips, getting into the corner, shortest way around is always the fastest way around, but they can't, and when they do that line, they struggle to get off the corner, so that opens up the door for somebody to arc it behind them and get a straight run off.
And I think we can watch cars, and I think everybody at home can watch the cars too, and you can almost diagnose what their car's driving like by what their line is, how their car's entering the corner, where they're running on the racetrack. It's pretty much a telltale of what their car's balance is.
So early in the session, everybody with the left sides down below the white line, and some like Justin Haley even exiting the corner below the white line.
Yeah, I think that all comes to, again, kind of like Tony said, how's your car handling? You know, if you're able to arc the corner getting in and you can get off the brakes and the thing goes left and turns well, you can get low off the corner and get a straighter drive up off. If you can't, kind of let that thing have some real estate, let it have its head a little bit, if you will, in the middle of the corner and get the straight drive off. It all comes down to being able to put the throttle down up off the corner. If you can't do that, you're going to get past.
Chase Elliott was right against the bumper of Ryan Blaney, getting back to the throttle at both ends of the racetrack here, but look at the drive off Blaney gets. He pulls away.
It's fun. At the beginning of every one of these sessions, these guys are cheating that white line on the bottom and splitting it with the left sides below it. And then it seems like the longer the session gets, then they finally get the confidence and security to move that car back out.
You heard us talk about it, and I was listening to Tony talk about this. The 9 car, he can just carry better momentum. He can come off the brakes, let the car work a little bit better for him, where you see Blaney, he's running a good lap time, but he's working way harder than Chase Elliott is in his 9 car.
Blaney hooks the bottom in 1 and 2.
That turned really well right there.
But you could also, and see how loose he got up off the corner because of that. But I take it all the way back to watching how much that front end was turned in the center of the corner. He had a lot of wheel in it, and that's where when he unwrapped it up off the corner, it broke that left rear loose.
And that's what we've been talking about figuring out the drivers that can tie that whole corner together. A nice smooth entry to center, and then that also gives them the opportunity to have a nice smooth exit with it.
So Elliott and Blaney with a pretty good gap, or more than a tenth on Ricky Stenhouse. The rest of this group. Let's check with Jamie.
Daniel Suarez in the 99, 7th on the board. Daniel, you told me yesterday, I'm not going to be able to sleep. This is just so amazing. What was it like for you to drive down into that tunnel and onto the racetrack today?
It's just special, you know. To race here in LA is special, and to race in the Coliseum is even more special. As you know, I don't get to race at home in Mexico, but this is as close as you can get it. I've been here in LA already like for 3 or 4 days doing media, meeting a lot of Latinos and having a good time. So I'm super excited to be here. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. The car is fast. Freeway Insurance is on board for this weekend, which they are huge into the Latino market as well. So just overall, it's going to be a great weekend.
What do you have to say to your fans in Spanish about tomorrow's race?
To all my amigos, nos vemos aquí mañana. El carro número 99 de Freeway Insurance con Chevrolet Camaro.
Yes!
Bye.
And one of his team owners, Pitbull, will be here to do the pre-race concert.
Boyer, what did he say?
Yes!
He lost me after tomorrow. 3.5 minutes to go here.
I'm watching the lap times, and we talked about it, the 9 and the 5. Those guys, I hate to say it, but they're picking right up where they left off. They're carrying a lot of momentum around this racetrack, not really slipping and sliding around. Tells me those hot rods are making a lot of grip for those guys.
And the fun thing, Chase is sliding around a little more than what we think here right now. Watching him, the thing that's fun to watch with the guys that are fast right now, and I saw Chase do it, I've seen Larson do it. You'll see him right in the center of the corner. They're making a nice smooth corner, but all of a sudden you'll see him tug on the wheel. And it's not to make the lap time faster. They're just testing to see if they need to ask that nose to turn harder, will the car do it? So they'll tug on it a little bit. And it's taking it. That's the fun part. Larson's a little loose off, and I've saw Chase Elliott the last couple laps. He's getting a little loose off.
One thing I noticed right here, that Cal or whatever, it's done something on the left front, and the hood right there's maybe fell off.
Do we really need that piece?
Blew it off. He's going so fast. I don't know what it does, Jeremy. I can't answer that question. And where did it go?
All right, so I believe those louvers are to help extract air from underneath the nose.
I think it's still doing that. I just cosmetically doesn't look the same.
No, without the louvers. No.
Yeah.
Chase Elliott, top of the chart. Larson to 5th now. Haley and Blaney. I think you need to be around 1350 or better to feel good about your chances for qualifying later today on FS1.
Everybody's going to have a chance to go back and reset, evaluate where they did, recalibrate, all of your sim and all the things that we use, the tools that these teams use to make these cars, have speed. And I think you'll see some people surprise you, but man, the cream's rising to the top for sure. The experienced drivers are up there, but I also love what I see out of, Cody Ware, Ryan Preece, guys like that, teams like that. They've done their homework and we're ready for the challenge.
And Justin Haley, I mean, this kid has not been on the radar, but all day he's been toward the top of the board and very, very consistent at the same time. I think this is what you mentioned earlier, both on and during our breaks too. This car's an equalizer. Everybody's starting from scratch, and this has the opportunity for drivers to rise to the top and teams that you don't normally see at the top of the board to rise to the top as well.
1 minute to go in the final round of practice. And you have fellows like Chase Briscoe in the top 5 along with Haley. You have Daniel Suarez, Cole Custer up there in the top 10. Pretty much a mixed bag.
But that was the design and the vision for this car. That's what was intended to do. Everybody buys the parts and pieces from the same manufacturer. They all come from the same place. Now it's up to the teams to try to figure out how to do different, how to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack.
And it's done the same thing for the drivers as well. It's given them all the opportunity to be on a level playing field and let their talent rise to the top.
So when they issue the red and black flags here in a few seconds, it'll be from the inside of the front straightaway. No room on the outside to put a flag stand, so they have a scissor lift at start finish, but it's to drivers left, not to drivers right. Of course, there are caution lights, wheeling caution lights all the way around the track, and there's the red and black flags to end this final practice. So we picked up almost half a second for the fastest lap. And look at all the signage around the Coliseum to indicate flag condition, other information. We're just not used to this. This is going to be so much fun. So qualifying is coming later today on FS1. Tomorrow, coverage begins at 5 Eastern time on Fox as we run the heats, the last chance qualifiers, and the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. Well, we've seen practice, fellas. What do you think?
I'm excited about it. Like I said, I was very skeptical coming here. Saw the racetrack yesterday, got excited, even more excited after the first round, but to see all of practice, to see how fast, how much time guys gained, to see the drivers moving around, and to see the multiple lines that they have on such a small racetrack that we didn't anticipate. I think this is going to be an unbelievable event.
That's exactly where I was going to go, Tony. I think first and foremost, the thing I love the most is that multi-lines. Being able to open the door up to somebody being able to dive bomb you. You have to hold it out to run a lap, but you open the door up for somebody to make that pass, that protection. That cat and mouse game is going to be so much fun to watch when they go around here. But ultimately, just watching some parity in the cars across the field. You've got some guys that I didn't expect to be up there, but you also have, the old go-to boys that are up at the top of the board as well. It's going to be very fun to see who is able to qualify, because that's where it's all going to come down.
And this Coliseum will be packed, and it is going to be quite the event. Let's get out to the garage area. Jamie.
And Chase Briscoe, the 2021 Cup Series Rookie of the Year, back in action. And so far, you guys looking good. Third on the board, but I want to know what it was like from your perspective. I saw you yesterday, all smiles. What was it like, though, to drive your car into the Coliseum?
It's pretty cool, you know, just even driving down the street. You know, how many times do we drive a Cup car down the street into a racetrack through the tunnel? So it's a pretty cool atmosphere just driving out there, and there's not even any fans here yet. So it'll be really cool tomorrow, and when you're rolling down there for the heat races, and even tonight for qualifying. So super cool racetrack. You know, it reminds me a lot of indoor midget racing, where it's just so tight and technical, and your elbows are definitely up the whole time. So it's a lot of fun. You know, it seems like the tires really held on well too. We just kept getting faster and faster as the day went on. So excited. You know, like you said, we have a really fast bender tractors forward. So hopefully we can take advantage of that tomorrow night.
You had to quit a little bit early. You had a problem. Were they able to fix it?
Yeah, I think it's just a simple, literally a couple-minute fix. There's just a pin that holds the throttle cable into the throttle itself, and that pin came out. So we didn't have a safety wire. We're going to safety wire that now, and should be good to go.
Thanks, Chase. Regan.
Well, Jamie, practice just finishing up right now. As soon as I got over, we had the opportunity to walk on the track. The guys in the booth have been talking all day long about the lines, about what this racetrack's doing, where the rubber's going down, what it feels like. I can tell you that right now as I stand out here, there's some grip right here where these speed bumps are, but it's in between the speed bumps. The further that you move up, you can physically feel the rubber under your shoe on this racetrack. The further you get out, the white line, a good amount of grip right there on the racetrack, and then it stops when you get about a car width away from that white line. All of a sudden, you can physically feel what's changing on the track. The track, the same temperature all the way across, so it's not as much heat related as it is literally the rubber from the tires going onto the racetrack. This is my favorite part about what we're doing this weekend. We have got the opportunity to get out here right when the cars get off the racetrack, find out what's taking place with the cars, with the racetrack. This is something that's I haven't gotten to experience since I've been announcing. Mike, this is a lot of fun right now.
How deep are those little dips there to your left, the rumble strips?
Mike, you can see with my hand in there, they're about as deep as your hand. You can put your hand there, and it's about that same width or depth in terms of what you got. Roughly half inch, 3/4 of an inch, I would say. Just enough to where it's got to upset the race car. It's got to affect the amount of grip that race car gets. It's, again, very cool. We've been talking all about them, and I do think we're going to be racing down there. We'll have to see what happens.
All right, should be fun. Larry Mack, what have we learned in practice, and what are we going to do to get ready for qualifying?
Well, Mike, I can't think of anybody better to ask that question. Yeah, we're here with Cliff Daniels, but I'm just going to call him the champ. As a crew chief perspective, now that we've got these 3 practices in the books, where are we at? What did we learn?
First off, I would say a huge kudos to NASCAR, to everybody at the track. The way that we ran those 3 practices and the way all that went off was just fantastic. You know, for us, it was just learning the basics, right? How do the tires look? What do our air pressures look like? Brakes and steering and all that. Everybody at Hendrick Motorsports prepared a great car for us. So Kyle was comfortable in the car. Brakes were great. Steering was great. And we could just go work on our setup some. Still need just a little bit, but, you know, for our first stab at it, I think it went pretty well. Kyle seemed pretty comfortable in the car, and, man, the track is just cool.
Well, Mike, I would not bet against this group. Maybe they can start 2022 just like they ended 21.
I hope so.
Well, their best lap was only 6/100ths off of the fastest lap of the day. What a great place for a race. The LA Coliseum plays host to NASCAR. Right in downtown LA. Who'da thunk it? Well, you're going to live it tomorrow on Fox. Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum with qualifying later today. Chase Elliott fastest, debriefing with Alan Gustafson. Chevy, Ford at the top of the chart. After several rounds of practice, now they get ready for qualifying. For the first time, the Busch Clash was open to all Cup teams. All 36 charter teams are here. None of the open teams chose to participate, so it's 36 cars looking for 23 starting spots in the main event. Jamie.
And all of those cars that showed up wanted to win practice, but it was this guy, Chase Elliott, who did it. Did you get to have a little bit of fun out there finally getting on the track at the Coliseum?
Yeah, first off, just props to NASCAR and everybody involved, all the men and women that put a lot of effort into making this happen and building a racetrack and paving it and just all the logistics that have gone into this. So props to everybody for making it happen. I feel like they did a really good job with it. Just the workmanship and everything, logistics of how this has worked this weekend has really impressed me. So happy to be here. Appreciate everybody on our Napa team for working really hard through the winter. It's been a really busy winter for all of us. Hasn't felt like much of an off season, but super excited to be back and hope we can make the right decisions, tonight and then going into tomorrow. So I feel like we have a pretty good Napa Chevy, just about at this point trying to make the right decisions and not letting me mess it up too bad.
All right, we'll see you in qualifying tonight coming up at 5:30. Let's go over to Larry McReynolds one more time.
Well, Jamie, I'm with Brian Wilson. That's Brian Wilson of the Wood Brothers, not of the Beach Boys. Simple question. Are you having fun yet?
I am. Out here, it's a great setting. Obviously, we've got a lot we want to work on, but we feel like we made gains throughout practice. So, yeah, definitely having a good time so far.
I'm about to get off. You need me to do anything?
Absolutely, yeah. You want to jump in?
All right, Mike, I got work to do. I'll see you at qualifying later on tonight.
Okay, Larry. NASCAR spent north of $1 million to turn the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum into a quarter-mile racetrack for tomorrow's event and for tonight's qualifying. What a job they've done. Qualifying is tonight, 8:30 Eastern Time. The best of 2 laps to determine your starting position in the all-important heat races. FS1, 8:30 Eastern this evening, when all 36 cars will take to the track in time trials. Tomorrow, heats, last chance qualifiers, and the Busch Light Clash. Coming up next here on FS2, America's Day at the Races. I would say we're having fun.
I am. Loving what I see out of these guys. They're going to work, and they're working in them race cars. This track's got them guys on edge.
Yeah, this is going to be super exciting. Tell all your friends, tell all your neighbors, and if you're in the LA area, do not miss this opportunity.
Practice kept getting faster and faster, relatively uneventful. We'll see you for qualifying later on FS1.